Welcome to the Umbra Vortex, where whispers begin and screams never end. Beyond this point, only madness awaits. This isn't a place for comfort, only for truth. Not the kind found in books or muttered in confession, but a raw, unfiltered reality, cloaked in shadow, stitched with dread, and pulsing just beneath the skin of sanity. I'm Edward J. Hallow, and I'll be the last voice you hear before the silence consumes you. Tonight, you'll hear a tale not merely of fear, but of something older, something that waits. A man is haunted by a recurring dream, a house he has never visited, a family he does not know, and a room he's never entered, yet cannot forget. As the years pass, the dream fades until an invitation arrives. What awaits is not memory, but prophecy. A tower, a portrait, and a woman who has waited far too long. This is the story of the room in the tower, where dreams become doors, and death doesn't always end the hunger. John had long stopped speaking of the dream. It wasn't for lack of memory. If anything, it had imprinted itself upon his mind with a clarity no waking moment could match. The house, the people, the room. These things had followed him through most of his youth, like a shadow too faint to see in daylight, yet ever present. It always began the same. A summer's day, a warm breeze through tall hedges, and the sound of gravel crunching beneath his shoes as he approached an unfamiliar yet strangely known country house. He would be welcomed by a friend, sometimes nameless, sometimes called Clinton, or something altogether forgotten, and introduced to the family. They were always quiet, always watchful, the father withdrawn, the sisters pale and wide-eyed, and the mother, Mrs. Stone, tall and grave, with thin lips and an expression that knew more than it revealed. And always, after tea on the lawn or a silent dinner beneath ancestral portraits, she would look at him and say, "You will sleep in the tower room." That was where the dream would end. The moment the door to the tower creaked open, dread would consume him like fog swallowing a lantern's light, and he would wake sweating, heart pounding like a prisoner's fist on a locked door. But the worst part was not the fear. It was the feeling of expectation, of something waiting behind that door, something unseen, eternal. Years passed, the dream faded, but never fully vanished, until the letter arrived. It came in early July, penned in a neat but urgent hand. Clinton, a friend from university whom John had not seen in several years, invited him to spend a week at his family estate. The tone was cheerful, even fond, but there was a strange edge to it, a note of insistence that struck John as eerily familiar. Something about the phrasing reminded him of the dream. "Come down for a few days, won't you? The house is large and quiet, and the countryside is absolutely beautiful this time of year. You'll find peace here, and perhaps something more. The room is ready for you." John read those last words again. The room is ready. A chill passed through him, but he shook it off. Dreams were nothing, weren't they? Shadows of the mind. He folded the letter and agreed to visit. The estate lay just outside the village of Wickhurst, nestled in a grove of ancient yews and oaks, its chimneys rising above the trees like stone fingers. The carriage carried John through narrow country lanes, thick with summer bloom, the hedgerows bursting with foxglove and nettles. But as he approached the estate gates, a stillness overtook the landscape. Birds fell silent. The sunlight dimmed behind a thick wall of clouds. Then he saw the house, tall, grey and quiet, with ivy curling around its eaves like veins. As the carriage rolled to a stop, John felt the peculiar sensation that the house had been waiting for him. Clinton met him on the steps, as warm and lively as ever. He looked hardly changed, though perhaps thinner, and his eyes, those bright eyes of old, had gained a shadow at the corners. "John!" he exclaimed, embracing him tightly. "It's been too long. Come, the others are inside. Mother is dying to meet you. We'll have supper in the drawing room. I trust the journey wasn't too terrible." John smiled and allowed himself to be ushered in, though the feeling of unreality only deepened. The hall was just as he had seen it in his dreams: polished oak floors, aged tapestries that swayed without breeze, portraits of severe ancestors glaring down through centuries of varnish. As he passed them, he swore their eyes followed him. The family was perfectly polite. Clinton's father was quiet, but not unfriendly. His sisters were pretty, reserved, and eerily synchronized in movement and speech, like reflections of one another. But it was Clinton's mother who made John's breath hitch. Mrs. Stone. Of course, that wasn't her name. She was introduced as Margaret, or perhaps Eleanor, he barely heard. But she was her, the woman from the dream. Older now, lined with time, but unmistakable. Her presence exuded something ancient, immovable. And as she offered him a glass of sherry by the fire, she looked him straight in the eyes and said, "You will sleep in the tower room." A hush fell, though no one else seemed to notice. The fire crackled softly. Clinton raised an eyebrow, as if waiting for John to object. But John only nodded, hearing himself thank her politely, as though accepting an invitation to a game of cards. After dinner, Clinton led him up a staircase, hidden behind a tall bookcase in the west wing. The climb was steep, and the air grew colder with each step. The passage smelled faintly of damp stone and candle wax. A strange tension coiled around John's chest. At the top, a narrow hallway led to a single heavy door. "This is it," Clinton said, with a note of pride. Or was it unease? The tower room. No one stayed here in years. He opened the door. The room inside was exactly as John had seen it in his dreams. The four-poster bed with its dark velvet hangings, the curtains drawn against the windows, the carved chest at the foot of the bed. And above the fireplace, a portrait. Her portrait. Unmistakable. The same woman, the same gown, the same cold, knowing eyes. John stood frozen. Clinton moved beside him. "She's a relative. Died long ago. Creepy thing, isn't it?" He reached up and lifted the frame from the wall. "If it bothers you, we'll move it." They carried the portrait into the hallway. But as they set it down, they noticed the red on their hands. Long, sticky smears of something dark and metallic. Blood. But neither was wounded. They stared at each other in silence. Clinton paled, muttered something about old paint, and returned downstairs. John, trying to steady his nerves, lay down on the bed, though sleep seemed impossible. Thunder cracked like a whip across the sky. John woke with a start. The room was pitch black. The curtains flailed in the wind. The candle had gone out. But it wasn't the storm that had woken him. It was her. The portrait was back, hanging precisely where it had been, and beneath it stood Mrs. Stone, rigid, pale, her eyes glowing with a soft, hungry red. "You came," she whispered, voice dry as parchment. "As I knew you would." John tried to speak, but no sound came. Her gown hung from her like burial cloth. Her hands, long, bony, clawed, hovered in the air between them. "You were always meant for me," she hissed. "The bloodline calls. You have been promised. And now—" She bared her fangs, long, yellowed, sharp. "You are mine!" She lunged. John screamed. Her cold weight pinned him to the mattress. He felt the icy brush of her mouth against his throat. But instinct surged. Panic and the will to live. He grabbed the iron candlestick and swung wildly. It passed through her, but the iron struck something. She howled and recoiled, vanishing like smoke driven from a flame. The portrait crashed to the floor with a deafening shatter. The door burst open. Clinton appeared, breathless, eyes wide. "John! What the hell?" Mrs. Stone was gone. Only a crumbled burial shroud remained, smouldering faintly on the floor. The scent of charred roses and blood lingered. They sealed the tower room that night. In the morning, the portrait was gone. The walls were bare and cold. Weeks later, in the village archive, John found an old parish record. It told of a woman named Miriam Stone, buried in 1764 for crimes unnamed but whispered of in darkness. Her grave had been exhumed. She had not decayed. A priest reburied her in unhallowed ground, noting her lips were fresh with blood, and her teeth had lengthened in death. But the earth never held her. The dreams have not returned. But John has never stayed in a house with a tower since, and he never will. Dread has many forms, but the deepest comes from what we've always known was waiting. Some doors should never be opened. Some dreams are warnings, not whispers. This was the room in the tower, a tale where memory became prophecy, and one man's fate was sealed long before he arrived. I'm Edward J. Hallow, and if you dream of a place too often, take care. It may be waiting for you too, because some rooms don't let you leave, and some nightmares are only the beginning.